The marketplace was alive with sound, smells, and color. Merchants shouted over each other, hawking fruits, spices, and fabrics, while children ran between the stalls, laughing. Lanterns swayed in the breeze, casting golden light over the cobblestones. Among the crowd moved Leora, a young waitress with hair the color of autumn leaves and eyes sharp with quiet intelligence. She carried a tray filled with fresh bread and bowls of stew, moving gracefully between customers. Most ignored her, treating her like any other commoner. But some took pleasure in reminding her of her place. Tonight, a group of nobles, drunk and arrogant, had taken seats near the center of the marketplace, their laughter cutting through the bustle like knives. They were loud, careless, and cruel. "Bring the girl here," one of them called. "Let's see how fast she runs when we throw something at her." Leora's heart sank, but she lifted her chin and continued. She had learned to endure insults. It was a survival skill, honed over years of service. Still, there was a fire in her chest, a flicker of anger she refused to show. The nobles began tossing tomatoes from their basket. One flew through the air, hitting Leora's arm, leaving a smear of red across her simple linen sleeve. Another followed, splattering onto the tray she carried. Patrons gasped or laughed, and some stepped back in discomfort. Leora's cheeks burned, not with shame, but with suppressed fury. She took a deep breath, steadying herself. With one careful motion, she set the tray down, wiping her sleeve, and approached the table. "Is there something you need, gentlemen?" she asked, her voice calm but firm. The nobles laughed, cruel and high-pitched. "Did you feel that?" "The girl is trembling." "How amusing." Leora's eyes narrowed. She wanted to strike back, to show them that their laughter held no power over her, but she knew better. In this city, a single misstep could ruin her entirely. She took a step back, bowing her head slightly, pretending to retreat, and then she felt it, a presence unlike any she had felt before. The air seemed to grow heavier. A shadow fell across the marketplace, and the laughter of the nobles faltered. From the edges of the crowd, a tall figure emerged. His cloak was dark, almost blending into the shadows of the buildings, yet his presence was unmistakable. The merchants and patrons fell silent. Even the children stopped running. He moved slowly, deliberately, eyes fixed on the nobles. Every step carried authority, a silent warning. Leora's heart caught in her throat. She recognized him instantly. Kale, her husband, the Alpha King. Few had ever seen him outside the palace. Even fewer dared to speak his name. And here he was, appearing as if conjured by the very fire of the city itself. The nobles, drunk on pride and ignorance, did not notice him at first. They continued their jeers, tossing the last of the tomatoes with careless mockery. Kyle's eyes, dark and intense, followed each fruit as it flew. When the final tomato struck the ground near Leora's feet, he stepped forward. His presence alone silenced the crowd. "You," Kale said, his voice low but filled with power. "Do you think such acts are amusing?" The nobles turned slowly, confusion flashing in their faces. Then recognition. The king?" one stammered. "But how?" Kale's gaze was cold, commanding, like ice on fire. He moved closer, each step measured, and the crowd instinctively parted, leaving a clear path between him and the nobles. Leora's hands shook slightly, though she tried to steady herself. Relief mingled with fear and awe. Kale had always been her protector, but to see him here in the flesh, watching her humiliation, made her pulse quicken. There was a promise in his eyes, a promise of justice, but also of a fire that only she could witness. "Be gone," Kyle said, his voice now sharper, a blade of authority cutting through the tension. "Before I decide that punishment is the only way to teach respect." The nobles, their bravado shattered, looked at each other, fear slowly replacing arrogance. One of them tried to speak, but Kale's gaze was relentless. The man faltered and stammered, unable to form a coherent sentence. "Take your leave," Kyle repeated, his tone brooking no argument. "And remember this lesson." Finally trembling, the nobles gathered their pride along with their empty baskets, retreating into the night. The marketplace seemed to exhale, the tension easing, but the whispers of awe lingered in the air. Leora stepped closer to Kale, her voice barely above a whisper. You didn't have to come." Kyle's eyes softened slightly as he regarded her. "I always come," he said. "For you, always." She lowered her gaze, feeling a mix of gratitude and embarrassment. She had endured the humiliation alone, and yet his arrival reminded her that she was never truly alone. The crowd began to disperse, murmuring stories of the king's sudden appearance. Leora and Kale walked through the marketplace side by side, though she kept a cautious distance. "You could have hurt them," she said, her voice shaking slightly. "You could have made them regret their actions forever." Kyle shook his head, a faint smile tugging at his lips. "I wanted them to understand respect, not fear. You are stronger than you realize, Leora, but some lessons require presence, not power alone." Her heart fluttered at his words. There was always this pull between them, a mixture of trust, love, and something unspoken that neither dared to fully name in public. Here, in the quiet shadow of the marketplace, it was impossible to ignore. As they left the crowd behind, Leora felt the weight of her dual life pressing down. She was a simple waitress to most, but a queen in her own right to one man. The secret of her marriage was known to very few, and it had kept her safe, though it also carried its own burdens. Kale's hand brushed hers briefly, a silent reassurance, before he adjusted the cloak around his shoulders and began to lead her through the twisting streets of the city. Leora kept her gaze ahead, though she felt his eyes on her constantly. There was pride in them and something softer, more intimate. "I'm glad you're here," she admitted quietly. "And I am glad to see you unbroken," Kale replied, his voice low, almost a whisper meant only for her. "You face the world with courage, and yet you carry yourself with humility. That is rare. That is strength." They paused near the edge of the city, where lantern light gave way to the shadows of the forest beyond. Leora looked up at him, her breath catching. There was a depth in Kale's eyes she had never seen before, a storm of power, love, and something protective, almost dangerous. "Do you ever wish we could live without these secrets?" she asked softly, a tremor in her voice. Kyle's gaze softened, though the intensity never faded. "Every day," he admitted. "But the world is not gentle. We must move with it, not against it. And yet," his hand found hers again, gripping gently, "together we face it all. Always." A sudden rustle in the nearby forest caught Leora's attention. Shadows moved unnaturally among the trees, and a chill ran down her spine. Kale noticed immediately, stepping in front of her, eyes scanning the dark. "Something watches us," he said, his voice tight. "We are not yet safe." Leora felt a shiver of fear and anticipation. The marketplace had ended, but another story was beginning, one filled with unseen eyes, challenges she could not yet name, and the undeniable, magnetic presence of the man she loved. And in that moment, she realized how precarious her life truly was, not because she was weak, but because she was loved by a man whose power was unmatched and whose enemies were everywhere. Kale's hand tightened around hers, as if sensing her thoughts. "Do not fear," he whispered. "No one will harm you. Not while I am near. But you must trust me completely. That is the only way we survive what is coming." Leora nodded, feeling a strange mix of relief and tension. Her pulse quickened as she realized that her quiet life as a waitress had ended tonight. A new chapter had begun, one in which power, danger, and love would collide, and where she could no longer hide in the shadows. The forest loomed ahead, dark and full of secrets, and Kale, the Alpha King, stood beside her, a guardian, a lover, a storm waiting to be unleashed. Together they stepped forward into the unknown. The forest was quiet, almost too quiet. Shadows stretched long and strange between the gnarled trees, and the wind whispered secrets no one could understand. Leora stayed close to Kale, her hand brushing his as they moved along a narrow path. Though she tried to appear calm, her heart raced. She was not afraid of the dark itself, but of what might be hiding within it. Kale's presence beside her was both a comfort and a reminder of the danger surrounding them. His eyes, always alert, scanned the trees and the undergrowth, noting every movement, every unusual sound. He had chosen to step out of the marketplace to protect her, but now the forest itself seemed to test them. "Do you feel it?" Kale asked, his voice low. "Something watches us, something waiting for the right moment to strike." Leora shivered but nodded. "I feel it, but I trust you. Always." Kale's gaze softened briefly and he squeezed her hand. "That trust, it is our greatest strength. Never forget it." They walked for what seemed like hours, though the forest twisted and shifted around them, making it impossible to measure distance. Every so often a branch would snap underfoot and Leora would jump, her heart pounding. Yet Kale never faltered. His calm was steady, his confidence a shield she could lean on. Finally, they reached a clearing where the trees parted, revealing the ruins of an old stone chapel. Moss covered the walls and vines climbed the broken pillars. The place seemed abandoned for decades, but there was a strange energy in the air, as if the ruins themselves remembered something ancient and powerful. "This will do for now," Kyle said, motioning toward the ruins. "We can rest here, but stay alert." Leora sat on the cracked stone floor, brushing dirt from her hands. She looked at Cale, who remained standing, his eyes scanning the forest's edge. The contrast between them struck her. She was small, mortal, and vulnerable, yet inside her beat a fierce courage. He was powerful, almost untouchable, yet in her presence he softened in ways no one else could see. "I never imagined life could be like this," Leora said quietly. "One moment I am serving bread in the marketplace, and the next, I am walking through a forest with the Alpha King at my side." Kyle turned to her, his expression unreadable. "Life is full of surprises," he said, "but do not think this is chaos without reason. Every event, every step leads us to what we are meant to face. And tonight we are meant to face something together." Leora's heart quickened. "What is it?" she asked, a hint of fear in her voice. Cale did not answer immediately. He walked toward the center of the clearing, crouched and examined the ground. His fingers traced strange patterns in the dirt, and his lips moved in soft words that Leora could not understand. She felt a chill run through her, sensing that magic, or something older than magic, was present. Finally, he looked up at her. "The nobles who humiliated you were only a symptom of a larger threat. There are forces in the city, forces that wish to undermine my rule, and they see you as a weakness to exploit. We must be ready for them." Leora swallowed hard. She had always known her life with Cale would be complicated, but this level of danger was new. How can I help?" she asked, her voice trembling but determined. Cale's eyes softened. "Your strength is not in swords or power," he said. "It is in your courage, your heart, and your intelligence. These enemies underestimate you because they do not see what I see." Leora felt a strange pride mixed with fear. To him she was more than a servant, more than a commoner. She was a queen in spirit, and her heart a weapon stronger than any blade. They settled for the night among the ruins, a small fire burning to keep the darkness at bay. Leora could not sleep. Her mind replayed the marketplace, the tomatoes, the laughter of the nobles, and then Cale's sudden appearance. There was something both terrifying and thrilling about being under his protection. She realized with a start that part of her fear had always been intertwined with desire. Desire for safety, for connection, for him. Kyle noticed her restlessness. "You cannot sleep?" he asked softly, sitting beside her. I keep thinking about what could happen," she admitted. "About the nobles, about everything. I feel exposed." He reached out, brushing a lock of hair from her face. "You are never exposed while I am here," he said, his voice steady, almost tender. "But you must learn to trust not only me but yourself. Courage is born from understanding your own strength." Leora's cheeks flushed. His words, his touch, his presence, everything was overwhelming. Yet in that moment she felt the full weight of their bond. She was not just his wife in name, but his equal in spirit, and he recognized her as such. Morning came with mist curling around the ruins. Kyle rose early, already surveying the surrounding forest. Leora followed, her steps quiet on the damp stone. Suddenly the sound of hooves and shouted voices broke the calm. Figures in dark cloaks emerged from the trees, moving with precision and purpose. Leora recognized them immediately. Not nobles this time, but skilled assassins and spies, hired by a secretive cabal that had long sought to challenge Cale's influence. Cale's eyes narrowed. "Stay behind me," he commanded, "and do not move unless I tell you." Leora obeyed, her heart pounding, but she did not shrink. She had learned that fear was not the enemy. Hesitation was. She kept her mind sharp, watching the intruder's movements. The cabal's leader stepped forward, a tall figure with a hood obscuring his face. "Alpha King," he said, his voice smooth but dangerous. "You protect her well, but you cannot protect everyone. She is a pawn, and you are playing a game you cannot win." Kyle's gaze was unwavering. "She is not a pawn, and you underestimate her. More importantly, you underestimate me." The air seemed to tense around them. Leora felt the forest itself hold its breath. The leader's lips curled in a sneer. "We shall see," he said, and motioned. The others moved forward. Kyle stepped in front of Leora, his cloak swirling, his eyes flashing like storms. In his presence, the intruders hesitated. They had heard stories of the Alpha King, of his power, his intelligence, his unmatched skill in battle, but now they saw it firsthand. He did not draw a weapon. His authority alone commanded respect and fear. Leora realized something then. This was no ordinary confrontation. The Cabal was testing not only Kale but her. Her courage, her composure, and her wit would be part of what decided the outcome. She felt a strange thrill at the challenge, knowing that she had a role to play, not a passive one, but an active force alongside him. Kale's voice cut through the tension. "You will leave now, or face consequences you are not prepared for." The Cabal hesitated, then retreated slowly, their leader casting one last glance at Leora. There was recognition there, as if he had seen something powerful in her. "This is not over," he said. "Mark my words." As the figures disappeared into the forest, Leora exhaled, her hands trembling slightly. Kale turned to her, his face a mixture of concern and admiration. "Do you see?" he asked. "Even now they sense your strength. You are no longer just a witness to power, you are part of it." Leora's chest swelled with a mixture of pride and awe. She realized that her life had changed completely. The marketplace humiliation was gone, replaced by something far greater, a partnership with a man whose presence commanded the world, yet who treated her as his equal in courage and spirit. Kale led her deeper into the forest, toward a hidden sanctuary known only to the Alpha King and a few trusted allies. It was a place of protection, but also of learning. Leora would need to understand not only how to survive in this world of intrigue, but how to thrive, how to use her mind and heart as weapons of their own. As they approached the sanctuary, Leora looked at Kale. I think I am ready," she said, her voice firm, though her heart still beat rapidly. "Ready to face whatever comes with you." Kyle smiled, a rare softness in his expression. "And I am ready to face the world with you. But remember this. Strength comes not from the sword alone, but from the bond we share. That bond is what makes us unstoppable." The sanctuary gates loomed ahead, carved from ancient stone and inscribed with symbols of protection. Leora stepped forward with him, feeling the weight of destiny pressing gently upon her. She had survived humiliation. She had survived fear. And now she would learn to wield her own power, alongside the man she loved. But as they entered the sanctuary, a shadow moved across the trees behind them, unseen yet unmistakable. The Cabal had not forgotten them. Leora sensed it, a chill running down her spine. The story was far from over, and Kale, ever alert, sensed it too. His hand found hers again, gripping with a silent promise. "Whatever comes, we face it together." The sanctuary was quiet but not peaceful. Ancient stone walls rose high, covered in ivy and moss, and glowing runes carved into the pillars hummed softly, a protective magic that had stood for centuries. Leora walked beside Kale, her hand in his, feeling both a strange nervousness and a steady courage. "This place," she whispered, her eyes wide as she took in the symbols and the protective charms that hung from the ceiling. "It feels alive," Kale nodded. "It is alive. It listens, it protects, and it remembers. Few may enter and fewer still may stay without purpose. Tonight we are here to prepare." Leora felt the weight of his words. Preparation meant more than learning to defend themselves. It meant understanding power, strategy, and the responsibility that came with being connected to someone like Kale, the Alpha King. As they stepped further inside, a soft rustle echoed from the shadows. Kale's eyes narrowed. "We are not alone," he said, his voice a low warning. From the darkness emerged a figure cloaked in black, the same leader from the Cabal who had confronted them in the forest. His eyes gleamed with intelligence and malice, but there was hesitation there as well. He had underestimated them once, and he was wary now. "You cannot hide here forever, Alpha King," the man said, his tone calm but dangerous. "Your power is strong, but the city, the kingdom, it will not bend forever. And she—" He looked at Leora. "She is just a tool in your hand." Kyle stepped in front of Leora, his cloak swirling like midnight. "You are mistaken," he said, his voice steady and commanding. "She is no tool. She is my partner, my equal, and any threat to her is a threat to me." Leora felt a surge of warmth at his words. For so long she had been underestimated, mocked, and treated as less than capable. Now Kale's declaration confirmed what she had always felt inside herself. Strength came not only from physical power, but from courage, intelligence, and heart. The Cabal leader's eyes narrowed. "Then let us see whose strength is greater," he said, stepping back and raising his hands. A circle of dark energy shimmered around him, twisting and moving like smoke, filling the sanctuary with tension. Kale's eyes flared with a matching intensity. Energy crackled around him, ancient and controlled. He did not attack. He simply radiated authority. Leora felt a strange sensation in the air, a pressure that seemed to test her very spirit. She realized that the battle ahead was not just one of force, it was a battle of wills, of courage, and of trust. "Leora," Kale said softly, his hand brushing hers, "do not fear. Remember your strength, remember our bond. That is our power." She nodded, inhaling deeply. Fear was still there, but it no longer controlled her. With Kale by her side, she felt capable of anything. The Cabal leader lunged forward, casting tendrils of dark magic that whipped through the air like serpents. Kale moved with them, deflecting and countering with energy drawn from the sanctuary itself. Leora watched carefully, noticing patterns in his movements, understanding how power flowed through him, and then she realized she could help. A shadowed tendril aimed for Kale, and without thinking, she reached out. Her touch, guided by courage and focus, redirected it away, breaking the dark energy into harmless fragments. Kyle glanced at her, eyes wide but approving. She was learning, adapting, and becoming a force in her own right. "You are stronger than you know," Kyle whispered, a hint of awe in his voice. "Trust yourself. Trust us." The Cabal faltered, surprised by her sudden intervention. Leora felt a rush of adrenaline. This was no longer just survival, it was empowerment. She realized that humiliation, fear, and doubt had shaped her, but they had not broken her. Every challenge had prepared her for this moment. Together, Leora and Kale pressed forward. Their movements were synchronized, flowing as one, blending strategy and instinct. The Cabal's leader struggled to keep pace, his attacks becoming slower, more desperate. And then Kale spoke. His voice was clear, echoing through the sanctuary. "Enough. Your power is nothing compared to unity, courage, and loyalty. Leave and never return." The Cabal leader hesitated. For a moment it seemed as if he might continue the attack. Then with a look of resignation he stepped back. The dark energy dissipated, leaving only the soft glow of the sanctuary's protective runes. Leora exhaled, her shoulders relaxing for the first time in hours. Kale turned to her, his expression unreadable at first, then softening. He reached out, brushing a strand of hair from her face, tucking it behind her ear. "You were magnificent," he said. "Do you see? You are no longer just a witness. You are part of this world's balance." Her heart swelled. Pride, relief, and love mingled inside her, making her feel alive in a way she never had before. I did what I could," she whispered, though she knew she had done far more than that. Kale took her hand, pressing it to his chest. "It was more than enough. You have proven yourself, not just to them, but to me and to yourself." For a moment, silence filled the sanctuary. Only the soft hum of protective magic remained. Leora felt Kale's strength, his power, and his love surrounding her, yet she also felt her own growing strength rising within her. "Kale," she said softly, "I don't want to just follow you. I want to stand with you, always." Kale's gaze held hers, dark and deep, full of emotion he rarely displayed. "And you will. That is why we are stronger together. Alone we are formidable. Together we are unstoppable." The words settled over them like a promise. Leora realized that this night, this battle, had changed everything. She was no longer just a waitress, no longer a figure in the shadows. She was a queen, a partner, and a force in her own right. Outside the sanctuary, the forest rustled with the wind, the Cabal retreating into shadows. The threat was not gone entirely, but it had been delayed, and their power had been tested and proven. Kyle led Leora to a small balcony overlooking the forest. Moonlight spilled over the treetops, silvering the leaves and casting long shadows. Leora leaned against him, feeling his warmth, his strength, and his calm certainty. "I never imagined life could be like this," she said quietly. "I thought I was powerless, trapped by circumstance. But now," she looked at him, her voice trembling with emotion, "I see that I was wrong. I see that I am strong. And it is because of you. Because of us." Kyle's hand rested gently on her cheek. "No, it is not because of me alone. It is because of who you are. Your courage, your intelligence, your heart, they are your own. I only helped you see it." Leora felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes, but she did not hide them. This was a moment of truth, of recognition, of transformation. She had endured humiliation, faced danger, and emerged not broken but empowered, and she had done it alongside the man she loved. The night was quiet once more, the moon reflecting off the sanctuary's stone. Leora leaned closer, resting her forehead against Cale's. "What comes next?" she asked softly. Cale's eyes swept over the forest, the city beyond, and then back to her. "What comes next is whatever we choose, together. We will face threats, challenges, and darkness. But as long as we are united, nothing can break us." Leora smiled, a mixture of relief, love, and quiet triumph. "Then I am ready," she whispered. Kyle pulled her close, wrapping her in his cloak and holding her as if nothing in the world could touch them. And for a long moment, they simply stood there, the forest around them, the magic of the sanctuary and the bond between them stronger than ever. Yet even as they stood in that quiet, sacred space, the shadows beyond the forest moved subtly, as if observing, waiting for the right moment. Leora sensed it, a flicker of caution in her mind. The story was far from over, but for now, they had faced the greatest challenge and emerged victorious, and in that victory, Leora and Cale discovered something even more powerful than magic or authority: the unbreakable strength of love, trust, and unity. Together they were unstoppable.